In 2023, the US government held a groundbreaking hearing. While most people don't typically pay attention to boring government hearings, this one in particular has millions of views and led to extensive public discussion.
Good morning and welcome to the most exciting subcommittee in Congress this week, the Subcommittee on National Security, the Border, and Foreign Affairs, for discussion of unidentified anomalous phenomenon.
This one was the first public government hearing on UFOs, crafts recovered by the US military, and non-human intelligence. I watched the entire hearing so you don't have to. In this video, I will show the most noteworthy clips from the almost 2.5 hour long hearing. We'll discuss connections to other UFO whistleblower claims, including Bob Lazar, and discoveries of non-human biologics.
In 2022, NASA announced that it was commissioning an independent study team to examine UAPs. In May, the independent study team held that its first public meeting, which included the perspectives from NASA senior leaders as well as perspectives from the Department of Defense and intelligence agencies. The NASA study team is also expected to release its first report pretty soon, and I think it's safe to say that we all eagerly await its results.
Since this hearing was 2 years ago in 2023, we actually have the results from this NASA study. NASA confirmed UFOs do in fact exist, and covered some unclassified sightings with documented military sightings such as the Tic Tac and the jellyfish UFO.
This is an example of one that I showed at the hearing recently. This is a spherical orb, metallic, in the Middle East, 2022, by an MQ-9. I will come back to the sensor question that David raised here in a moment. This is a typical example of the thing that we see most of. We see these all over the world.
Dr. Kirkpatrick also discussed how these anomalous phenomena tend to have similar characteristics, with almost 50% of them being reported as round metallic orbs, going from altitudes of 10,000 to 30,000 feet and going from stationary to Mach 2, double the speed of sound instantaneously, which all match details discussed in this UFO hearing.
It's been so difficult to get here today. I've said, in the Baptist church, we'd say that the devil's in our way. And the devil has been in our way through this thing. We've run into roadblocks from members, from the intelligence community, the Pentagon.
Now let's introduce the first of 3 witnesses at this hearing, Ryan Graves. Graves is a former U.S. Navy F-18 pilot and mentions he's there on behalf of over 30 other military and commercial pilots who reported their story to his organization, Americans for Safe Aerospace. He also discusses routine sightings of black cubes inside of clear spheres, including one that came within 50 feet of military pilots and led to mission cancellations.
My name is Ryan Fobbs Graves, and I'm a former F-18 pilot with a decade of service in the U.S. Navy, including 2 deployments in Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Inherent Resolve. I have experienced advanced UAP firsthand, and I'm here to voice the concerns of more than 30 commercial aircrew and military veterans who have confided their similar encounters with me. In 2014, I was an F-18 Foxtrot pilot in the Navy Fighter Attack Squadron 11, the Red Rippers. After upgrades were made to our jet's radar systems, we began detecting unknown objects operating in our airspace. During a training mission in Warning Area Whiskey 72, 10 miles off the coast of Virginia Beach, 2 F-18 Super Hornets were split by a UAP. The object, described as a dark gray or a black cube inside of a clear sphere, came within 50 feet of the lead aircraft and was estimated to be 5 to 15 feet in diameter. The mission commander terminated the flight immediately and returned to base. Soon, these encounters became so frequent that aircrew would discuss the risk of UAP as part of their regular pre-flight briefs.
The second witness, David Grusch, is a former senior intelligence officer with National Geospatial Intelligence Agency and a senior tech advisor for UAP issues.
My name is David Charles Grusch. I was an intelligence officer for 14 years, both in the U.S. Air Force, both active duty, Air National Guard, and Reserve, at the rank of major, and most recently from 2021 to 2023, at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA, at the GS-15 civilian level, which is the military equivalent of a full bird colonel. I was my agency's co-lead in unidentified anomalous phenomena and transmedium object analysis, as well as reporting to the UAP task force, UAPTF, and eventually, once it was established, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO. At the time, due to my extensive executive level intelligence support duties, I was cleared to literally all relevant compartments and in a position of extreme trust, both in my military and civilian capacities. I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
Later in this video, Grusch is the one that will announce that we do have non-human biologics that have been recovered from craft retrievals. Lastly, Navy Commander with 18 years of aviator experience, David Fravor, the pilot behind the groundbreaking Tic Tac incident.
As you know, my name is David Fravor. I'm a retired commander in the United States Navy. In 2004, I was a commanding officer of Strike Fighter Squadron 41, the world-famous Black Aces. As we proceeded to the west, the air controller was counting down the range to an object that we were going to, and we were unaware of what we were going to see when we arrived. The controller had told us that these objects had been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space. All four of us, because we were in F-18Fs, so we had pilots and Wizzo in the back seat, looked down saw a white tic-tac object with a longitudinal axis pointing north-south and moving very abruptly over the water like a ping-pong ball.
Now, if you're a follower of this channel, that last quote right there may sound familiar. In my last video on Bob Lazar, linked right here, he describes the movement of the UFOs with a very similar description, that their movements are very erratic.
It doesn't shield you, but essentially you're in, and this is a terrible way to say it, almost in a different realm, because you're now influenced only by that gravitational field. For instance, people wonder how a craft like this can make a turn at such high speed, a 90-degree turn, when they would imagine people slamming up against the wall or something to that effect. Well, that really wouldn't happen. Inertia would have no effect.
What about G-forces? Let's talk about G-forces of those vehicles. Could a human survive those G-forces with known technology today?
No.
No, not for the acceleration rates that we observed. There were no rotors, no rotor wash, or any sign of visible control surfaces like wings. As we started clockwise towards the object, my Wizzo and I decided to go down and take a closer look with the other aircraft staying in high cover to observe both us and the Tic Tac. We proceeded around the circle about 90 degrees from the start of our descent, and the object suddenly shifted its longitudinal axis, aligned it with my aircraft, and began to climb. So as we started to turn back towards the east, the controller came up and said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this, but that thing is at your cat point, roughly 60 miles away in less than a minute."
Now, there's sometimes discussions around this as potentially the US government's technology, but both Fravor and Graves explicitly state that the craft they have knowledge of not only perform movements we cannot, but seem to defy physics as we currently understand them.
The technology that we faced was far superior than anything that we had, and you could put that anywhere. If you had one, you captured one, you reverse engineered it, you got it to work, you're talking something that can go into space, go someplace, drop down in a matter of seconds, do whatever it wants, and leave, and there's nothing we can do about it. Nothing.
Are you aware of any of our enemies that have that capability?
No.
The objects that are being seen by commercial pilots are performing maneuvers that are unexplainable due to our current understanding of our technology and our capabilities as a country. And that applies for the military as well.
Mr. Fravor?
Yeah, I concur with that. We have nothing that can stop in midair and go the other direction, nor do we have anything that can, like in our situation, come down from space, hang out for 3 hours, and go back up.
Mr. Graves, again, I'd like to know, how do you know that these were not our aircraft?
Some of the behaviors that we saw in a working area, we would see these objects being at 0.0 Mach, that's 0 airspeed, over certain pieces of the ground. So what that means, just like a river, if you throw a bobber in, it's going to float downstream. These objects were staying completely stationary in Category 4 hurricane winds. These same objects would then accelerate to supersonic speeds, 1.1, 1.2 Mach, and they would do so in very erratic and quick behaviors that I don't have an explanation for.
Mr. Fravor, what astonished you the most about the flight capabilities of these Tic Tac, very briefly?
The performance. Absolute performance. It was...
And you're not aware of any other objects that anybody in the world has, in this world, that has those capabilities?
No, I think it's far beyond, actually, our material science that we currently possess.
As an expert naval aviator, have you ever seen an object that looked and moved like the Tic Tac UAP?
No.
Did the Tic Tac UAP move in such a way that defied the laws of physics?
The way we understand them, yes.
Many dismiss UAP reports as classified weapons testing by our own government, but in your experience as a pilot, does our government typically test advanced weapons systems right next to multi-million-dollar jets without informing our pilots?
No, we have test ranges for that.
Additionally, these aren't one-off sightings. In the NASA study, they mentioned having over 650 cases they reviewed, and by the time of their hearing had over 800. And Graves said the same thing. He said it became so common that it began being part of pre-mission briefings and something that they taught to new students.
And so it became a generational issue for naval aviators on the eastern seaboard. This was something we were briefing to new students. This is something that was included in the notice to airmen to ensure that there was no accidents.
My first question is, you've identified these as taking place on the East Coast. Is it just on the East Coast where these encounters have been reported?
No. Since the events initially occurred, I've learned that the objects have been detected essentially where all operations, Navy operations, are being conducted across the world.
At this point in the hearing, the three whistleblowers had made it clear that the U.S. military has an abundance of sightings with eyewitnesses, along with high-tech data confirming everything. They've made it clear that these are recurring sightings, often endangering pilots and coming with a stigma that limits how often these are actually reported. But the most groundbreaking info was yet to come.
Mr. Grusch, finally, do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
And Grusch, like most whistleblowers, reports that he has been the target of backlash. He dodged most questions inquiring about further details due to stating there was an active open whistleblower investigation into his situation that limited him from discussing details. But with what he did say, he says he has knowledge of planned reprisal activity against him and confirms that he has been in fear for his life.
In the last couple of years, have you had incidences that have caused you to be in fear for your life for addressing these issues?
Yes, personally.
He has also been attacked professionally and physically, and had this response when asked if he had known anyone that had been hurt after exposing some information.
Have you faced any retaliation or reprisals for any of your testimony or anything on these lines?
Yeah, I have to be careful what I say in detail because there is an open whistleblower reprisal investigation on my behalf, and I don't want to compromise that investigation by providing anything that may help provide somebody information. But it was very brutal and very unfortunate, some of the tactics they used to hurt me both professionally and personally, to be quite frank. Yeah.
Do you have any personal knowledge of people who have been harmed or injured in efforts to cover up or conceal these extraterrestrial technology?
Yes.
Have anyone been murdered that you would that you know of or have heard of, I guess?
I have to be careful asking that question. I directed people with that knowledge to the appropriate authorities.
Now that is something that should have been an easy no if the answer was no. Remember, they took an oath in the beginning, and lying after doing so would be a felony known as perjury. Now, a common comment skeptics have is, well, if this is true, why don't people who run the programs come forward with the undeniable proof that aliens exist and we have their craft? It's because they'd be telling on themselves for committing large numbers of felonies. As shown in this clip here, Grusch explains that the special access programs lie to Congress and misappropriate funds.
Well, so that how does, I mean, I don't want to cut you off, but how does a program like that get funded?
I will give you generalities. I can get very specific in a closed session, but misappropriation of funds and
does that mean that there is money in the budget that is said to go to a program, but it doesn't, and it goes to something else?
Yes, I have specific knowledge of that. Yep.
Do you think U.S. corporations are overcharging for certain tech they're selling to the U.S. government, and that additional money is going to programs?
Correct, through something called IRAD.
While this was also a bombshell, the biggest was yet to come.
Mr. Grusch, as a result of your previous government work, have you met with people with direct knowledge or have direct knowledge yourself of non-human origin craft?
Yes, I personally interviewed those individuals.
Has the U.S. government become aware of actual evidence of extraterrestrial, otherwise unexplained forms of intelligence? And if so, when do you think this first occurred?
I like to use the term non-human. I don't like to denote origin. Keeps the aperture open, both scientifically. Right. Certainly, like I've discussed publicly previously, 1930s.
These aircraft, have they been identified that they are being produced by domestic, military and contractors? Is there any evidence that that's what's being recovered?
Not to my knowledge, plus the recoveries predate a lot of our advanced programs that I previously am witting of. So,
if you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
Additionally, there have always been conspiracies that the US government plants info into our TV shows, movies, culture, and push some whistleblowers out into the public eye to see how people react and gauge how the public would respond to this information getting out, along with conspiracies about the government actively muddying the waters, with the most popular example being that the term conspiracy theorist was actually created by the CIA. And Grusch confirms that there has been an active disinformation campaign around UFOs by the US government for decades.
Has there been an active U.S. government disinformation campaign to deny the existence of unidentified aerial phenomena? And if so, why?
Yeah. If you reference my News Nation interview and I talk about a multi-decade, campaign to disenfranchise public interest, basically. Yeah.
The last meaningful clip in today's video is something that seemed like a small detail when I first watched, but then I realized I couldn't get it out of my mind for days, really considering the meaning of Grusch's words.
Grusch, why is it that you refer to the phenomenon as non-human intelligence? Why deviate from the basis of extraterrestrial life?
I think the phenomenon is very complex, and I like to leave an open mind analytically to specific origin.
When you say specific origin, are you referring, can you elaborate on that for those that might not?
If it's a traditional extraterrestrial origin or something else that we don't quite understand from either a biological or astrophysics perspective, I just like to keep an open mind on what it could be,
Grusch is specifically making a point to not limit the discussion to only thinking of these as something from somewhere else, mentioning that it could be interdimensional or even from here. Now, this hearing wasn't Congress asking, are aliens real? They were asking, are special access programs illegally hidden? Is Congress being lied to or blocked? Are funds being misappropriated? Are whistleblowers being retaliated against? With all of these being a very clear, resounding yes. Which leads to another government UFO hearing in 2024, which will be linked right here when that video is live.
These actions ultimately led NASA to assemble the independent study team that I mentioned earlier. Also in 2021, Harvard University stood up the Galileo project to research and examine the origins of UAP. So it seems like both, from NASA and in the higher education community, because of the work that y'all have done and people standing up, I think we're seeing some of that stigma slowly going away.